It was a rough weekend for Oregon State. They're back at home this weekend. You got UNLV coming to town. Now, did UNLV break back into the top 25 yesterday? I did not see that.
No, I don't believe they did.
Okay,
Boise is the highest-ranked team so far in that category.
Okay, Boise's still ranked, and they kind of played with their food a little bit overnight in Hawaii. That was a bit of a funky game over on the islands.
I love that we pointed out Jainty had a bad game.
It was, 190 yards and 3 touchdowns or something like that?
I think he had a 200-yard game.
Come on, Jainty, you bum. Have a better performance.
Boise State 15th. And then Army, look at Army, 6-0. And the Navy Academy in the top 25 as well. Army-Navy, 11-0.
Okay, well, let me read a couple of thoughts here at the Vancouver 4 text line. I actually think this is valid. Somebody said teams need to start giving fans updates on injuries so we can mentally prepare for what we see on Saturday night.
I totally agree with this. I've thought this for a decade.
My opinion on the game last week, if I know that that's the level of injury that you're facing, I'm not talking all week about how is this only a 3-point line and you're going to blow out Nevada. Like, your perspective going into the game is a little bit different.
Sure.
And you can kind of mentally set yourself up for that. One of our P1s is texting in with some personal stuff that he's going through that I don't want to read over the air, but it's not good, and his family is now connected to the Ducks, but he basically said that Nevada game was so maddening, I don't even know if I need to watch anymore. Nevada Wolfpack turns around and hands the ball off and gets 6 to 7 yards every time. I don't see why you have a football team unless you're making a better effort as a university. Another one, I know it sounds like a broken record, but listening today, I can't help but think of the different trajectories between the two Oregon schools.
Oh, it's terrible.
Ducks are at the top of the college football world, while a depleted Oregon State roster got their ass handed to them by Nevada. It's not just a loss, it's a representation of how we were left behind, and it makes me sad. I don't know how much longer my fandom can hang on in this climate. Congrats, Ducks, but my desire to pay attention to college football is waning. And one more I'll read here. Somebody said, if we don't win 7 games, it's time to start panicking that we're going back to the Gary Anderson years in a crappy conference.
I don't know if there'll ever be a one-win team where your coach abruptly quits in the season. What I would say, though, is, and I was texting with another media member about this towards the end of that game, I just, going into the year, I think 7-5 or worse is a disaster.
Yeah.
You are basically the Mountain West this year. Everything that's happened, your lot in life, you're rebuilding the conference. It's the Mountain West, but a different name. 7-5 or worse is not good. There's no way to spin that. There's no spin zone that works for me. I already think you came into the year with a lot of fans going, well, this sucks. This has been ruined. And, maybe 12-0 and 11-1 were just unrealistic. But 10-2, 9-3, it's what your hope was. And now the injuries pile up. And, oh, by the way, you've had 2 poor road showings. I know they beat San Diego State. San Diego State's not good. They were up 7-0 for most of that game, and if outside of a fumble at the half-yard line.
Yeah, into the end zone, basically.
Who knows where that game goes?
Yeah.
They won that game, so give them the credit. Again, you can be down a lot of guys defensively. I totally understand the context of it. You still cannot be getting shredded for almost 400 yards on the ground and also not scoring and keeping up with them.
When you know they're going to run the football literally every
There's
play.
no, McCoy has fun moments, but, there's not a lot of development there. I don't know, man. It's really it's dark right now in Corvallis, and people can spin it any way they want. Getting your ass handed to you by a 2-4 Nevada team, who you just said, by the way, you're not good enough to be in our new conference.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, that's not a good look. I'll be fascinated to see what happens this weekend at home against UNLV. Beaver diehards, I think, are always going to show up, show out, but how many empty seats will there be? And, you're a home dog. Are you going to respond to this, or is UNLV going to do to you what Nevada just did to you? Because I know UNLV's better.
Yeah, it's the first night game of the year, if I'm not mistaken, for Oregon State. I think this is their first night game.
No, Purdue and Colorado State were night games.
Oh, yeah, touche.
Not 7:30 kicks.
But evening games.
Evening,
So this one's
yeah.
a 7 o'clock kick, a little bit later on. UNLV is at least, it's one of the better home games on your slate this year. Washington State probably the other one, because Cal and Boise State are both on the road, outside of the Civil War, obviously.
Well, but you can't help but play the game now, Dirt. If you're going to look like that against Nevada.
How are you going to look this week?
And a lot of these guys aren't coming back from injury. Why would JT not rush for 300 yards if he needs it for Heisman
later in
purposes?
the year, for sure, yeah. Washington State, they weren't perfect this weekend, but they found a way to win.
They won by 8. They covered a number.
They did.
And Mateer can move with his legs. We know that.
Cal had another heartbreaking loss on the road. You got Cal on the road
Cal's
next weekend.
Cal's going to be at home. You've I know you beat him in 07 as a 2 team, but you've struggled at Cal. You've had your woes at Cal. Cal at least has the defense to do it. And then UNLV this weekend. Why would you not look at that schedule and potentially be telling yourself there might be 4 more losses on this thing? That puts you at 6-6. And by the way, I'm completely dismissing one team that can beat you too, San Jose State. They can sling the rock.
They can.
So, like, nothing I saw this weekend defensively makes me confident that Oregon State's going to be like some juggernaut that can turn this around.
And it's also hard to know because we don't know how many of the guys will be back for this week specifically and what the numbers will look like. There is something weird going on that I should have seen last week and acknowledge, and I didn't do it. And that is, and Jonathan Smith was this way there too. Like, you're just a different team on the road, and you've never really been able to get over that. I feel like this is like going on 4 or 5 years now. That when you play in Corvallis, you're getting a different animal, and you should have beat USC a couple of years ago. You should have beat Washington last year. You came back from 19 down to beat my team a couple of years ago. Like, you're feisty, you're tough, you're hard to beat when you're playing at home.
It's the talent gaps.
And when you go on the road, it cannot show up. And so that's the only thing I'll say for this weekend. Again, not knowing the injury stuff, like you're at home, I do think that'll be a decent crowd. I think UNLV should be a decent ticket. But time will tell on that, and maybe people don't want to go to the game after watching what they saw this weekend.
Don't lose to a choke. You cannot lose to a choke.
You lost to a choke.
We got choded.
You got choded.
I didn't think we'd get choded. We got choded. We got choded hard.
You got choded, man.